o problemas familiares como el divorcio. Estas experiencias impactan nuestra salud a largo plazo. Para aprender más, visita livebeyondca.org.
I was 15 years old when I had my first child. Not too long after, I would lose my mom due to a car accident and my dad due to alcoholism. I was left feeling hopeless, thinking, how can I parent when I have no parent? Going through these adverse childhood experiences, which are stressful or potentially traumatic events that can happen before 18, felt very isolating because while other kids were thinking about homework, I had to think about buying more diapers. It was a struggle, and I've learned that these experiences likely led to toxic stress, which can impact our long-term physical and mental health, but it doesn't have to determine my future. I had to remind myself that it's possible to heal and live beyond the hurt of losing my parents so that my own children can have a mother that is present. I believe everyone can have healing ahead. If you are curious about ACEs and toxic stress and what you can do as a parent to heal yourself and your children, I highly recommend taking a look at the livebeyondca.org website.
Really?
Yeah, now that I'm 18, I've been seeing some things about myself that I did not realize when I was living with you and Dad.
What's so different now that you're seeing this?
Everything, the people, the area, the news. It was actually the first week of me moving into college that I realized how much living in a low-income neighborhood was an ongoing struggle.
Don't tell me you felt neglected.
No, it's just that being in a different state really opened my eyes to the fact that a lot of the negative experiences I had growing up may have created toxic stress for me even before I knew that existed.
You said stress?
Yes, toxic stress. Things like neglect, abuse, witnessing violence, things you don't have control over when you're under 18, but that can negatively impact you mentally and emotionally well into adulthood.
We gotta do something so the same thing doesn't happen to your sister.
I'm glad you're thinking about her. And those negative events that affect you like that, by the way, are called adverse childhood experiences or ACEs. Even though they do happen, they don't determine our future.
Thank you for letting me know all this.
Of course. Just know that we can live beyond ACEs and take the steps to heal.
I'm Dr. Diana Ramos, California Surgeon General. ACEs, or adverse childhood experiences, are stressful or potentially traumatic things many have faced growing up. ACEs can include abuse, neglect, or challenges in our family, such as divorce or mental health struggles. These experiences can shape how we grow up, affect our health as adults, and even impact our children. California's Live Beyond campaign is here to help. Visit livebeyondca.org.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you could please settle in. For those in the audience, please silence your cell phones. For those of us joining online at KQED Live, thank you for joining us. We have a very exciting panel this evening with some dear friends of the Live Beyond program for Live Beyond Out Loud. Thank you once again.
ACEs are those messed up things that happen to you in childhood that probably shouldn't have happened, and you had no control over them whatsoever. And if not cared for properly, they can turn into long-term health impacts. They can even impact your life expectancy.
I knew that I had experienced trauma as a child and adolescent growing up, but I didn't realize how high my ACE score would be.
It led me to eventually end up being incarcerated at the age of 19, where I was facing 23 years to life in prison. And I just correlate all of that to, the traumas that I was enduring growing up.
So having that scale by the Surgeon General of positive stress, tolerable stress, and toxic stress provides us a reference and a framework of what can and cannot be acceptable for people and their health.
Drinking teas, eating healthy, having a morning and night routine, just kind of soothing my nervous system.
Yeah, for me, the biggest coping mechanism that I utilize is movement. And right now in my life, that's boxing.
Some of the things I do to help me manage my stress. So I like to paint and I like to knit sweaters in different outfits.
I'll spend hours just kind of tuning out, just sketching different types of things. It definitely helps, ground me.
I've been very blessed to find people who are on a similar healing journey. So we have similar vocabulary and similar experiences that we can relate about and we can share. I was able to learn through them how powerful I was and how I'm more than just my pain.
The person who had the most impact in my life is Crystal Guerra. She was my therapist inside of Orange County Juvenile Hall. She played a pivotal role in me being able to self-actualize and kind of realize that I wasn't my worst mistakes.
You're more than the worst thing you've done, and you're far more than the worst thing that's happened to you. Just because of the environment that we came up in doesn't mean that we're always going to be subject to something that's unhealthy and unpleasant, traumatic. At the point now where I am living beyond, what I went through, and I'm working with people every day, young people, like helping them get their second chance, helping them live beyond some of those similar experiences that we had that might have been so traumatic.
Hey, y'all. So happy to see you. Thanks for being here.
How you doing?
Hey, hey, hey. Welcome. Welcome to everyone to Live Beyond Out Loud. So great to see you here. Thanks for being here. We're so excited to have this conversation, with young folks who also advised on the Live Beyond campaign, the statewide ACEs awareness campaign. As y'all may know, ACEs stand for Adverse Childhood Experiences. And yeah, tonight we're gonna share stories from our lives and, talk about all the things, like managing stress and reflecting on the past and moving towards the future, a healthier future. And we're so grateful and excited to partner with KQED for this event. So, yes, big shout out to KQED Public Radio, and along with California's groundbreaking CYBHI, Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative, and California Health and Human Services Agency, which brings us the first of its kind. This is the first ever youth-led, for youth, by youth, statewide public health or mental health awareness campaign. So I'm very grateful to be a part of that. And yeah, if you haven't already, check out the booths outside for resources about the campaign and more. And before we start, let us, of course, introduce our panelists. Maybe we could start with Justin.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Jada. How's it going, everyone? Happy Wellness Wednesday. My name is Justin Martinez. I'm really happy to be here. I'm a mental health professional here at a high school in the Bay Area. I've been doing that full time for a year now. But before that, I grew up in Sacramento, California, born and raised, 35 years young right now. And I'm a new father. My son's 16 months old. Wow. If you're watching, son, I love you. Get to bed soon. And I just have a deep passion for talking about my lived experience, how I've adopted it, how I've embraced it, how I've healed from it, how I've grown from it. And with saying that, I identify with 7 out of 10 ACEs, and I'm really excited to dive into the conversation today and to unpack a lot of things and to just normalize vulnerability and lead with that and see where it takes us.
Hi everyone, my name is Setare Harsamizadeh Tehrani. I am a program coordinator at UCSF, but I am also a youth mental health advocate, and I've been doing that since 2018 because of my lived experiences with both depression and anxiety. I immigrated to the US when I was a teenager, and I've lived in Fremont ever since. And I'm really excited to be here and share space with all these amazing folks and all of you. And we want to just share more about our lived experiences and, as Justin was mentioning, where we come from and how that has impacted us and where we're headed as well.
Thanks, Satare. My name is Jose Cruz. Folks, I have been a mental health provider for 10 years this upcoming December now. And well, that just goes to point out like time really does fly when you're enjoying what you do or when you're having fun. And I'm not from the Bay Area originally. I am from Los Angeles, but I truly fell in love with the Bay Area, and not just that, but the people who live here, you know? And after providing services as a crisis counselor, I also became deeply aware, and for myself, I believe that there is just a perfect target age range with adolescents and transitional age youth to be able to provide sustainable long-term change. And that being said, a little bit more about me. I did not think I would be in this field for as long as I am. This is now 8 years in the Bay Area, 10 years overall, and I thought I was just gonna be here for a single year before I went to law school. But I think the population and just the work that we do is really inspiring and has kept me here for as long as it has. And I also want to give a shout out to KQED. I'm a big fan of their radio station, and also want to give a shout out to all the youth who called me performative for listening to All Things Considered on the drives that we have. It wasn't, and hey, here I am. So shout out to y'all too.
I know that's right. And my name is Jada Imani Carter, and I've worked with ACEs Aware for the last 2-3 years. And I'm grateful to see like Dr. Rachel Gigoff in the audience, Dr. Anda Kual, Dr. Sohail, and the community. But yeah, I came to the Bay at the age of 12. My parents moved us out here to get a better life. I was born into generational poverty, tradition of teen parenthood, drug abuse, different forms, and experienced different forms of abuse and neglect as a result of those circumstances. And it definitely did a number on my mental health, and also relate with having a very high ACE score. However, when I got to California and starting life over, that was the 4th time I think we'd moved states between the age of 0 and 10. I found a lot of community. It was very multicultural, very different than the world I came from in the Midwest, and started to build community and use arts and culture as a means to heal. So I've been, community organizing, making art, building spaces, workshops, festivals to heal in the context of community for a very long time. Well, pretty much since I got here, or around the age of 15, I had to get myself right first. But yeah, and I'm just so grateful for the many ways that this work can show up, including this one right here, right now that we're engaged in. And on that note, I would love to start us off with our first question, which is, how has healing shown up in your life and or in your community? And maybe we can start with Justin again.
Yeah, definitely. How has healing shown up for me in my life and my community? I'll start with my community first. As a school social worker working at a high school, I facilitate a young men's health group called Are You Man Enough? And I always break the word health down to the young men. What's the root word in health? Heal. Young men's healing group. This is a young men's healing group. There is so much healing that we need to do. Everyone needs healing, right? So I normalize that we're here to support each other along our healing journey, and it's a lifelong journey. And when I just come in and I lead with that vulnerability, and maybe I disclose something that I went through when I was their age. I went to foster care when I was a sophomore in high school for witnessing domestic violence at home. Their shields come off. And now they're able to actually feel safe enough to share a little bit about themselves and then support the next young man with something that they're going through. And then I'll have to pretend to be okay, to be strong, to be tough, to carry the weight of the world all around with them every single day and try to be perfect. That's not what we do in the group. It's okay not to be perfect because we're not, right? So that's one aspect of the work that I do, is facilitating groups. But outside of that, most of my work is working with students who are unhoused, who are in foster care, who are newcomers or immigrant families, and English language learners. And those are my main priority as a school social worker, giving them connections to resources, connecting them and their families to the community to support them to help lift the burden of whatever stress they're dealing with, financial stress, food insecurity, poverty, mental health resources. Whatever the holes are, whatever the gaps are, I try to fill it in with the community. There's a lot of limits to that. It's hard work. Hard work is very hard work. I'm feeling the weight of the heaviness at the end of the semester here right now, but I'm really glad that this platform, Live Beyond Out Loud, is here so that I can share my story. And I'm already feeling lighter. So I'll pass it on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think for me, one of the ways that I've started my healing journey is to actually have an open and honest conversation with my family and my parents specifically. I'm Persian, so I come from a collectivist culture. And you know, from an early age, they teach us that you always have to be respectful. And for me, it was like learning that that doesn't necessarily mean that I can't speak up, and I can share with them. Like I needed to share with them what it was like growing up in that environment and how that has impacted me as an individual. And it changed something inside me, and we know that's trauma. So, you know, the conversations, it's been they've been ongoing. So it's been 4 years since we started having those conversations, and I feel extremely lucky and grateful that my parents are at a point in their life that they are open to these conversations. I remember when they were younger, you know, like they, I don't know, they were a little bit more intense. I think they're on the older side now, so they're like chilling a little bit, which has been nice, and it's been like working really well for me. But I really think that we are healing individually and then also as a family, as a unit for the first time. And we're kind of becoming a better version of that family that we had in Iran. And I'm just really grateful that I get to see that full circle moment. I'll pass it to Jose.
Wow.
Wow. Thank you, Satara and Justin, for sharing. I mean, that was just so genuine and honest, so appreciated. And well, I just want to start off by acknowledging hard work is hard work. You know, that's a great catchphrase right there. I'm gonna start using it. And well, to answer the question, Jada, for me personally, I feel healing has shown up in the way I have thought about my support systems. And it has definitely shown up in the work that I put in towards redefining and recontextualizing the family dynamics that were present all throughout growing up. I'm also a child of immigrants, you know, and so there's definitely, I feel like, an urge within us to like, as soon as I turn 18, I am leaving, I am not coming back, you folks are never seeing me again. And, you know, as I get older, I'm definitely starting to lean a little bit more on those family dynamics to understand what it was that we went through, you know, with understanding that toxic stress and trauma really do define and shape our relationships. I don't want us to be just another statistic, but really want us to like move forward and heal together. And a little bit more background around me. I work with a very intense population. A lot of the work that I do centers around youth who perhaps are stepping down from a hospital setting or perhaps are at danger or risk of being put into a hospital setting. So for me, healing in the community sometimes seems like just showing up, maybe not saying anything at all, but just being present and being willing to be open to new experiences. That itself is healing, you know? And allowing ourselves as humans to just feel the wide range of emotions that we have to feel, whether that be anger, whether that be sadness, you know, healing is allowing ourselves to be in touch with that part of humanity that is within all of us. Yeah.
Thank y'all. Yeah, thank you so much. And on that topic of like family, community, and also May being Mental Health Awareness Month, we know that like if you look into Live Beyond or like do this work, you might have heard of the Stress Busters, science-backed ways to counteract toxic stress, which of course can develop through childhood adversity, childhood trauma, and the toxic stress is really what creates the health issues. So when we're talking about stress, and managing it. One way is connection, and in addition to that, are there any other ways that y'all like to manage stress, whether science-backed or anything you even discovered on your own? Yeah, do you want to start, Justin?
Yeah, definitely. That's a really cool question because my friends and family will call me crazy. My number one go-to when I'm at my best is cold plunges. I am a huge cold plunger. There is no stress in the cold water. It is just your breath. There's no worry, there's no pain, there's no anger, there's nothing. It's just you and your breath. I swear by it. That or a cold shower or something that shocks your body, putting cold water on your face just to reset. I love doing that, but other things that have really helped me now is something new that I've adopted is mindfulness. Mindfulness in the mornings, 10 minutes on the Calm app has been very helpful. When I'm feeling overwhelmed, I will do some push-ups on the table or some dips just to get my blood going. I feel like it's like I need to move my body because the stress is just sitting somewhere. And I need to let it move around. Getting sun, calling someone you love, the science-backed things. Yeah, the cold plunges and therapy. Therapy has really helped me with my stress, my trauma, my chronic pain. Yeah.
I think this year, the theme being better together, I think really speaks to the fact that, we heal in community and with connection, with relationships, but then also there are individual things that we can do on a daily basis. One of the things that I do with my friends is that, I usually just send them a text, just kind of how are you doing? And then we just kind of update each other. And usually we always say oh, I'm always here for you. And, they kind of say the same thing. And that really allows me to have them in my back pocket, if that makes sense. And I know that they're there and I can reach out to them anytime. And I also want them to know they can reach out to me anytime. And that has been, I'm really grateful for their presence. In terms of what I do on a day-to-day basis, you mentioned stress busters, and one of the stress busters is experiencing nature. And I used to think that meant oh, I needed to go to a cool beach or do a really nice hike or go to a national park. But it was just realizing that there is nature all around us, and even a simple walk around the neighborhood. There are trees that I can look at, right? There are sounds that I can be hearing, and so I've been trying to do that and just being more mindful of my surroundings. And then another cool thing that I do, I think it's cool, is when I go grocery shopping, there's always a flower plant space there. So I love plants and flowers, and I just go and I really enjoy and I take pictures. And sometimes when I feel overwhelmed, I look at those pictures and it helps me. It really helps me feel better.
It's funny you mentioned that. I adopted a plant for my office for the first time, and it has just brought me so much joy to see it grow and spread out. And I would never have imagined that. It's just a small little thing. But back to the question, great question, Jada. For myself, I feel first off, better together. For me, that just means, going back to my introduction, being more connected with the family, being more grounded, being able to be trusting and actually genuine. And I think that is where the crux of it is, because it's really hard to do that, even to get to the point where I am right now, where I can call up my mom and be like, hey, XYZ just happened, and I know that it will be non-judgmental and she will give me space. That took a lot of work to get to that stage, And I just want to reaffirm that for folks out there who perhaps feel like they don't have that connection with familiar supports or other supports, that back to what Justin was saying, hard work is hard work. But other than that, I feel for me on a day-to-day basis, I really need some space to really just be mindful of my own body and be mindful of the experiences that I have gone through throughout the day, throughout the week. And this is stuff that we can do by ourselves, right? Through meditation, through mindfulness, journaling even. But it's a lot harder and a lot more rewarding to do it with someone else. Call up a friend, be genuine about what you're going through. That also helps us be more empathetic towards one another and build up our capacity to be in tune with others' emotions. And again, build that community that we really need.
Love that. Thank you. Yeah. And I was just thinking too, like how, stress can create like a scattered kind of mind, and it can be really hard to be present. In fact, something I'm also been really interested in is how stress and childhood trauma can connect to like neurodivergence and things. Yeah, and how when, say, someone has like ADHD or like that kind of like scattered nature, it can be hard to ground into those practices that you need most, right? Or even we start like even potentially like hyper focus on something like work or get immersed in something and then neglect friends or family or practices, and how you can like what it looks like to make the stress buster the new hyper focus, like the new thing, fixation, whether it be a plant obsession or it be finding new ways to love your loved ones, like new creative ways to show up for them. And and like letting that be the project to tinker with. And something I've been thinking about lately.
Jada, if I can.
Yes, please.
Just brought something to mind. You're right. That sort of self-reflection can be really hard for a lot of different people. And I want to say one of the science-backed things that I feel just connect with a lot of us is movement is medicine. Being able to get out there and move in your body. And movement looks different for just a lot of us, whether it's picking up a new dance, picking up a new sport, or just going out for a walk, just being more in tune with what your body needs. And I feel like doing it together, we're doing it with other people, that helps us build community, especially if we're doing it around an activity that makes us feel good.
Yes, then you're getting like 2 in 1.
There you go,
yeah. That's
I can add too really quick. Like sports were a really big part of my life, playing baseball and football growing up. Now I'm coaching at the high school. And on the stressful days at work, I get to go out and I get to go teach baseball and I get to go play with the players and like show them how to do something and watch them do it. And then I'm like running around with them and they're keeping me young and like I'm trying to compete with them too. And I always feel so much better when I'm out there running around with him and I'm just playing on the land. I feel connected to the roots. I feel connected to my inner child, and I'm getting exercise at the same time. And then I go home and pass out. I'm tired.
And get
I'm
that
exhausted.
rest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. I want to ask. I hope we have time for all these questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm curious about 2 things. I'm just gonna give you both and then take whichever one. One is like being involved in the Live Beyond campaign itself. I know it's the largest scale campaign I've ever been involved in. It reached millions of people. If this process, being involved in Live Beyond, has changed how you talk about ACEs at all, maybe I'll start with that one. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's opened up the door for me and my family to have conversations. I kind of lead this realm in my family with mental health, with healing, with understanding, and really diving in deep to why things are the way that they are. And I think the healing comes from never like blaming or shaming my parents for their faults or wrongdoings. But the Live Beyond campaign has specifically really opened up the door with me and my mother, and helping her unpack some of her childhood adversity, some of her trauma, just so she can have a better understanding of who she is. And it really builds and strengthens our relationship. They're not easy conversations. They're definitely not. They're not perfect, rightfully so. But I never thought I'd be able to have that space with her. And I'm so grateful for it. I remember when she asked me, being a part of this and talking about adverse childhood experiences, and she shared something with me. I got to know a deeper side of her. And together we're healing as like adult child and parent. And I get to pass that down to my son now. So that's what it's done for me.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I would say for me, very similarly, it's opened up conversations that I've never thought I would be having with my family. like I actually sat down and I did the ACE questionnaire with my dad in Farsi. And, you know, he's 68, and it's just crazy to, you know, see that, like sit right next to each other, and like for him to just share with me all the stuff that he has gone through. And, you know, as a child, I think growing up in that environment, I didn't understand what was going on. Like, I just, you know, saw a lot of conflict, and I was like, my parents definitely hate me. Like, why are they doing this? They just, you know, like, they just hate me. And all these years for me to realize now that they weren't doing this on purpose. Like, they were actually doing their best, and that was their best, you know? And I think that's given me, like, you know, the fact that I used to, like, shame. Like, I would shame them, like, why did you guys do that to us, right? But I think just the fact that I get to understand where they're coming from, and just kind of breaking that cycle that you mentioned, like breaking the cycles of intergenerational trauma, and like not passing it to the next generation is huge. You know, my brother and my sister-in-law are expecting their first child in a few months, and I don't want the child to grow up with the things that we grew up with. And, you know, I feel really grateful that I get to have this platform through Live Beyond to share that with them, and like kind of have open conversations with them. And also, like, it can be really nerve-wracking to put your story out there, but I'm so grateful through Live Beyond we got to do that as a collective. And I felt like, you know, I just felt like, oh, there's like people who are doing this with me, so it's okay. And we're breaking down those stigmas that exist, because again, like ACEs, they can reveal a lot about your upbringing and about your family, about your business, whatever that means. So I'm just really grateful to be doing this, like with the people who understand and who care about these same things.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you for saying that.
Honestly, that was great. And I just want to point out, to your folks' credit, you know, I feel like this movement, this campaign, these Live Beyond ACEs Aware campaigns have definitely given these conversations momentum and the opportunity to keep rolling out, you know. For me, myself, it's given me, you know, I can appeal to authority, you know, like it's not just naive, optimistic Jose telling you that stress is like gonna impact us, but it is an actual fully funded campaign to educate and provide skills to all the Californians. I mean, that is just amazing. And when we brought this presentation over to other states, so many other people would come up to us and say, like, I just learned about ACEs a couple of years ago, you know, like, this is amazing. I didn't know there's a whole movement behind it. So it's really just very empowering to see that. And I myself, I do a lot of trauma-informed systems trainings in my capacity. And what I just can't help but feel is just a lot of pride when it comes to the topic of ACEs. Like, yes, these are adverse childhood experiences, and we are fortunate and privileged enough to live in California where we take this seriously. You know? And that's just been a very powerful experience to have.
In addition to that, real quick, is like, it provides hope in the title, is that you can live beyond your adverse childhood experiences.
Yes.
I'm proud to be here and to speak about it with all of you.
Likewise, and I'm so grateful that in the design process for this campaign, we were able to shape the name, and we were able to think about what's the essence of the message we want to portray, and like how hands-on we're able to be. That's really, it's incredible. And just to see it out in the world and be here with y'all, it's amazing. And I want to ask y'all, Justin and Jose especially, how do we make sure that young men are not left out of this conversation, or men in general? Young men,
not leaving them out.
Yeah, this conversation about mental health.
From my experience, day to day, I really try to normalize mental health. Like, I'm out at lunches playing music. I'm your wellness counselor. You don't have to wait for a crisis to come and talk to me. You're not weak to come and talk to me. Like, you're not, you're taking care of yourself. You don't have to get things to get so worse for you to come into my office. And I just try to drill that in their head. And I use a lot of self-disclosure too when it's appropriate, to just normalize and humanize myself so that they don't have to keep their guard up. But to not keep them, or to make sure that they don't feel left out of the conversation is to remind them that they have purpose and value. A lot of the young men that I work with feel lost, and they feel like they don't have a direction, they don't have an aim, and they don't have an understanding of what it means to be a man today, with all of the gender fluidity, which is acceptable and needs to be, and how it didn't, being a man used to mean something else, and it means something totally different today. And we just have those open, honest conversations about that. And we define it for ourselves. We define it for ourselves. I always tell them, just be the man the moment demands. If the moment demands that you're vulnerable, be vulnerable. If the moment demands that you're funny, be funny. If the moment demands that you have to be strong and carry something, then do that. Be the man the moment demands. That is the biggest piece, is just creating the space for them to be open, honest, and authentically themselves, so that they feel like they have a place, they have purpose, they have value, and that you're there with them along the journey. Not to fix or save them, but to support and guide them.
Well, I just want to add a little bit of a disclosure, not disclosure, but just want to add to that and say that as we talk about and think about inviting men, young boys, masculinity into the conversation, I want us to be mindful that we should not be using mental health as a form of coercion or punishment, especially because there are a lot of behaviors that youth sometimes ways that they behave in. And we have to be mindful that we are not fortune tellers. We can't tell the future. So we want to be mindful about just how we are providing care and support to them. Everyone is deserving of love and empathy. And we want to be mindful that we are being as open and caring for all these youth, regardless of how they are showing up, And I also want to point out that we ought to be as welcoming as we can to all the different facets of what masculinity looks like. I think you made a great point, Justin. These constructs are fluid. Gender constructs are social constructs. And as our society evolves, we want to keep having an open conversation and invite different people to come on in and help us define what we think masculinity is. What I do worry about and what I do want us to be a little mindful of is being aware that there are a lot of background noise out there that is trying to restrict and bottleneck and define what masculinity is, and we just want to be mindful and not really get stuck in there, because being a man, being a young boy, that is a wide spectrum of things. It can be, we're all very different and we bring different strengths to the table. And I think we ought to emphasize and really think about just how strong we are alone, yes, but even stronger together. And on that note, I do want to put out an idea out there and just want to say it, but if we could also put some sort of mental health tax on influencers, creators, and maybe even the platforms that allow these divisive and negative forms of toxic masculinity to, just be so present in our social media discourse, that would be a great starting point.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate the bold claim, because I think it's really important that we talk about it. Maybe in the 50s, being a man is provide, protect. You could work at McDonald's and buy a house. That's not the reality we're living in.
No.
And to think about how we can have a conversation where men and young boys are good enough because they exist as human being first, man or boy second, whatever that is meant to mean. But just being alive is enough and worthy of love, worthy of the broad spectrum of emotions and experience and anything. It's just scary and sad to see that, we have this history of this unequal power dynamic when it comes to gender, that doesn't just hurt the traditionally oppressed gender, right? It also hurts the one who's been put in given the power and privilege to typically be the oppressor, right? The stripping of humanity that happens there. Yeah. How do we restore humanity for everyone involved in this current moment? And though, like with this aimlessness and with this, all the changes and all the pressure that we have as young people and the economy and like all the things that are changing, it's so easy, I feel, for social media to manipulate people into pipelines that are extremist, negative, bullying, like anything that is like yelling at you, bullying you, tearing you down, making you feel like you're not enough is probably a red flag. Like, how do we circle back, right? Then to be like, nah, you deserve love, respect, care. You deserve to grow healthily and be who you are. And you know, a lot of these pipelines are like very counterproductive. So we're working, it's an interesting like, you know, climate we're working in. And I wanted to, of course, prioritize y'all's voices as men on the conversation of men's mental health. Yeah. And I also want to give room for Satare to speak too, and anything else y'all wanted to add.
Definitely, thank you.
Do you want to speak about like, how we make sure that boys and young men aren't left out of the conversation about mental health?
Yeah, I think one thing that I really think about is just as individuals in society, like we say things to little boys like, boys don't cry, or don't be a girl, things like that, like have an impact. And, you know, we say those things at such an early age that it goes to their minds, and that all impacts, you know, everything. And one other thing that I just wanted to add in terms of, you know, there are men who are victims of intimate partner violence, but that's not like, we don't really talk about that as much because, you know, again, that doesn't really fall into the traditional roles that they should be playing, right? And, but as a society, we're the ones who create that, and I really feel like we're at a point where we are ready, at least in California, to redefine that.
Yes, I love that. I love like y'all's point about this was made up. That means we can make something up that's better and healthier. Anything you want to add?
I think another thing too, that I think about a lot now that I'm raising a little boy, my son, is that I can't compare my generation of how I grew up to him. To when now he's growing up in a totally different world with totally different things, realities, circumstances, a cell phone with access to all the information all at once. When the day comes, he's only 16 months, but I'm thinking about this stuff already, you know? I will never compare my generation and how I grew up to his, because I have to meet him where he's at. We have to meet young men where they're at, and we have to not judge, criticize. We have to just like help create space to understand their experience, and then ask how we can support, get into the swamp with them, like being in the swamp, being in the mucky water with the gators swimming around. It's warm, it's stinky. I can be like, dude, why aren't you getting out of there? I could throw you a lifeline, I can put a rope out there, but I choose to get in there with them and say, yeah, this does suck. This is, I don't understand it. How do you want to get out of here? You know, let me know when you're ready. And that's meeting them where they're at. That's not judging them. And that's when we find the answers to support them.
Oh, 100%. I feel like being able to create the environment where we can be safe and unashamedly and undeniably ourselves, you know, like we create that, the youth, they'll bring the strength and resilience, you know, they'll do that themselves.
Speaking of resilience, what does healing resilience look like in this current moment? Do y'all want to speak more to that? We've got a lot going on right now.
Yeah.
Question.
I could start. I think for me, just acknowledging that there is a lot happening in the world, and like just being resilient doesn't mean that you have to like push through it and ignore the pain, because there is a lot of pain in the world, and it's hard. And you know, it's really hard to show up every day and live a normal life while like so much is happening. But it's just that acknowledgement that has been like really helping me. And then also just celebrating like small wins, because I feel like as humans, we tend to focus on the negative, but there are like positives as well. And just like noticing those, that has like really helped me, especially in the past few months.
That's awesome. Love it.
One of the things I like to think about in, these moments is that resistance movements are resilience movements, And communities will definitely come together for one another and protect their own and support each other, And I think especially because it's just so hard to be a young person in the United States nowadays, it's very important for us to take every single interaction seriously. Every interaction counts. And there are a lot of youth and a lot of us who perhaps don't have the resources, the support, or the capacity to be able to navigate this moment. We might see loved ones fall for misinformation, or we might see loved ones take on viewpoints so that they feel a belonging to other, And we want to be mindful that everyone deserves empathy and respect, regardless of what they're going through or how they come across.
Yeah. And I've built a whole narrative of my life about how resilient I am, how I've overcome the 7 ACEs and dissected each one with my therapist in a 1-hour session, which is something that we came up with. And look at me, be proud of me, look at all that I've accomplished. First in my family to graduate from high school, go to college, get a master's degree, come back, be a school social worker, be what I needed in the world when I was a high school student. But the resilience wore out. I built a good coping mechanism to put a lot on my plate, and I can't eat it all. So what resilience looks like to me nowadays is like finding space for grace and compassion for myself. I am enough. I am doing enough. And reminding myself of that. Speaking to myself as if I would to speak to my son, my little man. I would never want him to be overwhelmed by everything in the world. Right. It's okay. You're doing good, son. I love you. Keep going. Daddies are here. Yeah.
Thank y'all. Well, we got to go. So I did want to ask one more question, which is, to everyone who might be streaming, watching later, is there one small message that you would give to young folks right now who might be seeing this?
Yeah. What's happening to you right now as a young person is not your fault.
Thank you.
And when you become an adult, it will be your responsibility to learn, heal, and grow from the adversity that you're facing right now. Yes. Don't do it alone. Ask for help. Asking for help is always a sign of intelligence, never a sign of weakness. Be kind to yourself.
Thank you. Satare?
Yeah, I would say, I think as an immigrant, I really felt like I needed to catch up to people when I first immigrated. And you always, especially on social media, you always see highlights of people's lives. And that would always make me feel bad about my life and be like, oh, I'm stuck at home studying for this exam that I don't know, I hate it, organic chem got me. And it was just hard, right? So I started comparing myself to other people, and that, it makes me feel that my accomplishments aren't enough, and that was hard. But it's just acknowledging that we are individuals that are unique, and there's literally no one in the world that has lived your specific life. Obviously no one has your DNA, right? Your biology is different. Obviously your circumstance, your environment is different. So just acknowledging that and knowing that you don't need to compete with anyone, just as long as, you're going through, if you're taking steps forward, that's enough, right? And just, giving yourself the grace. I often always think that I tend to see myself as a kind person to my friends, but I realized relatively recently that I'm never kind to myself, but I really show up with kindness for my friends. So I just want to, be kind to yourself, and it's okay if, things don't look a certain way, and you're just doing the best that you can, and that's awesome.
Thank you.
What you were saying just brings to mind, comparison is definitely the thief of joy. We want to be proud of our own accomplishments and such. Yeah. Well, I just want to acknowledge first that, yes, it's hard being a young person nowadays, because as we look into the future, there's just so much hate and divisiveness that we have to undo, and usually youth are looked to as an engine of change, and that is a big burden. That is a lot. So my message to anyone listening out there is that, first off, you are not alone. It is very much more likely that there are people around you currently feeling exactly what you're experiencing and feeling the same way. So build community, connect with others. As I mentioned earlier, every interaction matters. And I really want us to take advantage of the fact that support shows up in so many different ways. If there is an opportunity for support that shows up in your life, please take it. We could all use support. And one of the things I definitely am convinced of is if we all had equitable access to mental health well-being, education and skill building, I feel like overall we would be a lot less divisive and a lot more cohesive as a society.
See, I just want to say thank you so much to our panelists and celebrate y'all so much. Thank you for your bravery, for your brilliance, for your generosity, for your wisdom, for your resilience, for your healing, for your guidance. You're just brilliance, really. And, thank you all for being here. Thanks for tuning in as well. If you want to learn more about the campaign, of course, visit livebeyondca.org. Okay. We also on socials, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, all that good stuff. We made a lot of, content for you. Hope that you engage with it, share it. There's so much to explore there. A lot of love and thought went into it. So yeah, from hearing people's stories to getting healing journals and different workbooks, playlists, book lists, so much. So we hope that it helps you along your healing journey or anyone else's. And I just once again want to thank KQED for having us, CYBHI, Pavilion, and our amazing panelists. Feel free to, take a bow or something.
Take a bow. Ready? So we hold hands.
Let's just hold hands.
Appreciate y'all. Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks, for coming out.
We
Thanks,
healing
y'all.
community.
Yes, you already know.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Good night, everybody. Take care.
This way.
Well, that was great. Thank you all for joining us here and online. And to learn more about this campaign, please visit the socials and lots of information there. I want to thank everyone for attending here and online, and for our panelists that did a great job. Very special moment for us all, and thank you all. That'll conclude our portion for this evening. So if you could, please feel free to wrap things up and head on out. Thank you all very much.